I even aspired, as I started college, to be pre-law. I was going to be a lawyer, and I was going to be your partner. But you dissuaded me from that, in large part because you really didn't like practicing law, and it just wasn't right for you, especially the kind of law you were doing. It just didn't feel that it didn't match your personality. But boy, did you love being a judge. And that was such a high point of your life. It suited you to a T. I can't help but thinking how lucky it is that you never had to adjudicate on a case of somebody who was pilfering songs or movies. What a conflict of interest that might have been. Anyway, they had to literally drag you from the bench when it was time. You were so unique in so many ways. You're one of the funniest people that I've ever known, never afraid to crack a joke, even in the most inopportune times and places. You also were one of the smartest men I've ever known. You had no trouble with the New York Times Sunday crossword puzzles. I can't understand how you did that. And it was amazing how you could answer almost every Jeopardy question from almost any category. And I don't remember ever seeing you read, so how you got that knowledge is a mystery. You're always so proud of Lillian's bridge accomplishments, but secretly let a few of us know that you were even better. Lil never disagreed. And you had a terrific voice and a special penchant for harmony. You were a regular in Uncle Seymour's holiday choir at Good Asachim, and later a traveling barbershop chorus that you loved so much. But perhaps your greatest asset was your kindness. You sometimes spoke like you were the great Grinch, but underneath it all, your actions were always marked by kindness and generosity. Your truest passions were family. You and Lil raised three beautiful and talented children. Your resilience in the faces of losing first Randy, then Lillian, and more recently Stacy, has been remarkable. It's hard to even imagine how you did it. Though you loved each one of them deeply and unconditionally, you dealt with their losses with dignity and resourcefulness. Best of all, you allowed Mark and Michelle to convince you to return to Chicago when it was time. And that was a godsend. You so much appreciated their love and kindness as they increasingly cared for you and supported you in your later years. I can't thank them and their children and Jack enough for all you did to make Shelley as comfortable as possible in his last years. Shelley, we will miss you. Your love will live in our hearts and souls. So, as I say, so long. I will remorse, but with gratitude for the honor and privilege of knowing you since the day I was born, for a life fully and well lived, and for the beautiful legacy you leave behind. May you rest in well-earned peace, and your memory remain a blessing for all of us. Thank you.
We now invite up Mark to share some more.
My apologies if some of these references are similar to something you've just heard. But we're talking about so. My dad, Sheldon, he grew up surrounded by determination, hard work, and a deep sense of family. His father was the first of 12 siblings that came to roots for the rest of the family that grew up in Chicago. My dad attended Hyde Park High School, then the University of Illinois and Kent Law School, where he graduated first in his class. He did build a remarkable career, even though he didn't like it. He He even wrote briefs for the federal appellate court and the Illinois Supreme Court before he became a federal judge, where he served for 28 years in both Memphis and in Phoenix, Arizona, working with unwavering dedication until he was 87 years old. His humility never allowed him to boast, but his accomplishments definitely speak for themselves. My mom and dad shared 58 years of marriage filled with love, partnership, joy, and bickering. Together, they raised 3 of us. They traveled the world, played countless games of bridge and golf, and welcomed everyone to their holiday gatherings. My dad had so many passions. He was an effortless storyteller, loved telling jokes. He once even became the comedian on a cruise ship when we were there and the comedian didn't show. He won 2 club championships for golf at 2 different clubs. Had a hole-in-one, sang in a barbershop quartet, and he was a devoted supporter of theater, where he belonged to many theater groups all the way till the end. Now, some of my favorite memories about my dad are, for sure, watching him have so much fun with all the talent he had as a 16-inch softball player. I didn't get to see him so much playing other sports, but I did get to see that. Having him as my baseball coach throughout Little League is something I'll never forget. I remember going on all these adventures with Indian guides, where he was one of the leaders of the tribe. I remember the time that he definitely showed up to Steve's graduation wearing 2 different colored shoes. And only he had the attitude and the confidence to pull that off without caring. And I will think of him every time I see a pile of DVDs. Hear barbershop quartet music, classical music, and for sure when I see any type of a bag of Cheetos. Even when life dealt him tremendous health challenges, his spirit never dimmed. To him, the glass wasn't just full, it was overflowing always. He never complained once. Even though he had a reason to do most days over the last 13 years, he showed a strength that I didn't know even existed. I've said many times, and for those of you who grew up in my generation, you'll understand that my dad was like a Timex watch. He took a licking and just kept ticking. His optimism, his resilience, his gentle strength will stay with me forever. All of these things shaped who I am today. I emulated him, tried to be just like him. And I'm going to cherish him forever. He loved family deeply, and he had close, meaningful relationships, not only with Randy and Stacy, but their siblings, or their spouses, but also his grandchildren, nephews, nieces, cousins, and family friends that were lifetime friends for my dad. His grandchildren, Steve and Samantha, oh, I forgot the most important thing, talking about you. He had a special bond with Michelle. And this was one of the, for 45 years, they shared a friendship. They built memories that I think that sure. Steve, Samantha, and Nate brought him endless joy, as did Samantha's husband Doug and their son Jack, who brought a light into his life that was immeasurable. He stayed close to his sister Lori, his brother Sid, their spouses, and the many nieces, nephews, and cousins who adored him. It wasn't just family. Most people instantly connected with my dad. No one ever had anything bad to say about him. All of his friends were lifelong, and I can still hear nurses and aides constantly saying, He's the cutest. We love Sheldon because he always had a way of leaving everyone that he encountered. I spent most of my life having a normal father-son relationship with my dad, but the last 5 years have been very special to me because I was able to develop a real friendship with him. The last several years, especially the last couple, have been some of those meaningful in my life. We spent nearly every day together, either together or on the phone when he could, and we shared all of our quiet stories, memories. Most importantly, we're just present to each other. Now, it mattered deeply to me that he always knew Michelle and I were there for him, and fully and unconditionally right up until the very end. Being able to give back a fraction of that to him, of the love and the companionship that he gave me throughout my life, is one of my greatest honors. Dad, I want to thank you for who you were, who you taught me to be. Your love, your free spirit, your example, your strength. I think on it almost every day.
Do you want to do it? Yeah. Yeah. And now some words from Sheldon's granddaughter, Samantha.
There are only a few people who touch your life so deeply that their impact lives in you forever, and Zadie was one of those rare people. He played such an important role in my life, and I loved him so much, but nothing compared to the joy of watching him as a great-grandfather. His love for Jack was pure and radiant. His whole face would brighten the second he saw him, and somehow he'd summon his strength just to play with him. It's one of the greatest blessings in my life. I absolutely loved and adored him, and when he learned that Zadie had passed, he said something I'll carry with me forever. I think Zadie will dream about us in heaven, and it will make him feel happy. And we will dream about him, and then we will be happy. Some of my favorite memories with Zadie are the ones that still make me laugh. Sleepovers at Astor, the unforgettable cigarette and water incident, those of you who were there and understand. Again, illegal DVDs that he made for us that we can finally admit out loud. The arguing banter between him and Grandma, and his legendary unfiltered comments at family gatherings. Every time. I also loved hearing stories about his years as a judge and getting to see where he worked. He was so proud of everything he had accomplished. Even when words were harder to come by, the love between us never changed. You could feel it in his excited expressions and his gestures and the way that he would hold your hand. Watching my years also taught me so much. It showed me how much I want to be cared for one day in return. My dad himself to Zadie every single day, and the depth of Zadie's love for him was equally profound. When my parents were away, I would come visit him, and he would just tell me how much he missed them, and then we'd have to FaceTime them every single time. They'd be at the pool. The love he had for my mom was something truly special. When he saw her as daughter, and his face would light up the moment she walked into the room. Witnessing those bonds reminded me of how precious the love between family is, and how it shapes us, teaches us, and carries us through every stage of life. I want to thank my dad and my mom for always making sure Zadie had his Cheetos, his favorite foods and drinks, and the care he needed, always finding ways to bring him joy even when life could have been very lonely and very hard. It was reassuring to know that they were always there giving him love and support. The last thing I'd like to say is I've never known someone in my life who fought harder to stay with Zadie. He faced so many challenges in his life and never once complained or felt sorry for himself. He taught me so much about the kind of person I want to be: resilient, grateful, loving, strong, and unafraid to show up fully for the people you care about. Losing him has been incredibly hard, not only because of how close we were, but because I knew how much he wanted to remain here with us. I loved him deeply, and I felt so protective of him until the very end. I will cherish our friendship, or our relationship, every memory moment we shared on this earth. Thank you, Zadie, for loving Doug and I, and especially Jack. And thank you for everything you taught me and for the pieces of you that we will always have live on in all of us. And then Jack just reminded me, literally, we went to the he stopped me to remind me to tell everybody because he wanted to say something. I love you very much, Zadie.
There's a Hasidic teaching about a rabbi named Zusha lying on his deathbed and weeping, and his students come to him and say, "Reb Zusha, why are you weeping? When you get to heaven, don't you think they'll say you were just as wise as Moses, just as powerful a leader as Aaron?" And Zusha says, "I'm not worried, Moses or Aaron. I'm worried that when I get to heaven, they're going to say, were you the best Zusha you could be? Were you the best of your own self that you could be?" And I think that Sheldon really lived up to that he was the best Sheldon he could be. He was clearly very consistent. Everyone had very similar stories and memories, and that just tells me that he was always true to himself, but really, truly himself. To his family, he was dad, he was Zadie, he was a brother, and he was a rock. He is missed by so many people in this room. His brother Sydney, his son Mark and Michelle, his grandchildren Steve, Sam and her dog, Nate, and his great-grandson Jack, as well as so many people who were waiting to greet him on the other side. Shelley was, by all accounts, a force to be reckoned with. He was a man who lived nearly 92 years, just shy of that milestone birthday on Thanksgiving, and he filled those years with hard work, quiet strength, and a resilience that frankly defies medical explanation. Mark and Michelle described him to me as the healthiest sick guy. This was a man who faced throat cancer 13 years to speak without a voice box. He weathered heart bypass, stroke, broken bones. He lived with physical challenges that would have crushed the spirit of a lesser man. But Shelley, he never complained, not even once. When I asked Mark what he's going to miss most about his dad, he said, his smile. That Shelley was someone who could smile through whatever else was going on. He came from a generation that believed in action over words. He was the first born here, the son of Jean and Irv, surrounded by a massive, close-knit family that had emigrated from Poland to Chicago. He grew up on the South Side, a proud graduate of Hyde Park High School. It was in that South Side that he met his beloved Lillian. She was from South Shore High School, and they were a match that only they could fully understand. We've already heard about their bickering, which led to the name the Bickersons. They were two independent thinkers, married for 58 years until Lillian's passing. Shelley was a man of intellect and immense professional pride. We've already heard about how much he valued his work as a judge, and that he was very prolific, giving perhaps more hearings than anyone else in the country on the disability work with the Social Security Administration, which is important, valuable work for all of us. In fact, Shelley was so dedicated that he didn't retire until he was 87. He was never a touchy-feely kind of father. That wasn't Shelley. Mark said that he can only remember 3 times that Shelley told him out loud in words that he loved him. But never, for 1 second of Mark's whole life, did he doubt that Shelley loved him. He didn't verbalize his emotions constantly, but he showed you through who he was through his actions. He was generous. He was the kind of person who would give the shirt off his own back to help someone else. And the family has countless examples of specific cases where he went out of his way, inconvenienced himself to help someone else. And again, never complained, never even thought that he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do the thing that his kids needed or his siblings needed. He was going to do it. He was going to be there for the people he loved. He took care of his own parents and in-laws as they aged. He showed his love by showing up. And he had In addition to being the comedian on the cruise ship, Michelle shared her wonderful memory of taking Shelley on a cruise, just the two of them. They would sit at dinner, an older man and a younger woman, and she could see the wheels turning in the other passengers' heads. She'd have to quickly announce, "It's okay, he's my father-in-law," to clear the air. He was so lucky to have travel buddies and friends. And Shelley returned to Chicago. And while these last years were physically difficult, they were also a time of profound connection for his family. Mark and Michelle, you became his hands, his voice, and his advocates. You cared for him with the same devotion he had showed his own parents years ago. And at that time, he formed a beautiful, unlikely bond with his great-grandson, Jack. Jack and Shelley connected over, of all things, the puffy Cheetos. 5-year-old Jack thought that they were the coolest thing in the world, that his great-grandpa could have Cheetos. They would walk together, Shelley with his walker, pushing Jack along, sharing a silent understanding that transcended age and ability. Shelley endured great loss in his life. He lost his beloved wife Lillian, his sister Rain, and tragically 2 of his children, Randy and Stacy. He carried those losses with the same stoic quietness. In his final days, as he held on with that signature stubbornness, Mark climbed into bed with him, put his arm and gave him the permission he needed. He told him, "It's okay, Dad. Go play bridge with Mom." Shelley was a judge, a provider, and a survivor. He leaves behind a legacy of resilience and generosity that lives on in those he loved and those that love him. This room is filled with 4 generations of people who have, in such a beautiful and heartfelt way, expressed their love and the tremendous impact that Shelley had on their lives. Loving someone is painful. It invites us to keenly feel their loss when they are gone. But our lives are so much better for having had their love in it. It is impossible to sum up nearly 92 years of an incredible life in just an hour or so. There are so many stories that you will all continue to tell. And Shelley's memory will stay alive when you eat a puffy Cheeto, a DVD, hear the sound of a barbershop quartet, or when you see the smile on the face of someone that loved him. Zichrono Lecha, may the memory of the Honorable Sheldon P. Zisook be an eternal blessing. I wanted to share one more additional poem, which is often one that's shared at funerals, but I think really specifically captures a lot of Shelley's essence. This is Epitaph by Miracle Roy. "When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arm around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me." We continue now with our memorial prayer, El Male Rachamim. I invite you to please rise as you are able. El Male Rachamim, Shochem B'Amramim. compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Sheldon P. Zisook, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We continue now with Mourner's Kaddish on the back of your handouts. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yurtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei t'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar, v'yithaleh, v'yithalal, shnei tikusha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran ve'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Rabba min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And may the memory of Sheldon P. Zisook be an eternal blessing to all those who loved them, all those who loved him, and to our entire world. This concludes our service. Please allow the immediate mourners to exit.
Families, everybody, back to Max and Benny's, the information's on